Here we are. Good evening. I don't know whether to feel great, feel bad that we're late, feel good that it's one of the biggest weeks in the history of this show. I can't wait to tell you what's coming up. I'm only going to wait 30 seconds though. Let's go. Well, it is Wednesday night, and that means it's time for Bowling with the Fef. I say that like I'm on every Wednesday night, but certainly on this Wednesday night, your platform to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel. We do it every week live right here, and this is a big one, folks. This is a big week. Not only do we have a spectacular guest with a website, the creator of a website that's really spanned across the country. You probably have heard of the website if you haven't heard of him yet. You're going to in just a minute. But coming up here in a matter of hours, I guess, day or two here, it's Bowling with the Fef at the World Series of Bowling. Are you ready for this? I'm barely ready for this. I can't wait. That's right. Bowling with the Fef heading on down to Bolero Wauwatosa in the Milwaukee area, March 11th through the 13th. That's this Friday through Sunday to check out some high level competition among the PBA's best, the best in the world. They are there. You probably saw the Roth-Holman Doubles Championship over the weekend. They have been competing in several animal pattern tournaments during the week, and the World Championship portion of things, even though those animal pattern events kind of work themselves into the World Championship, starts in earnest on Thursday, tomorrow. So lots of action down there at Bolero, and I will be down there hunting down some professional bowlers. And that being the case, I want to know, what would you ask the pros? What would you ask guys who have been PBA Player of the Year, who have been, have won so much that they're probably going to be in the Hall of Fame? If you had this microphone and you were jamming it in faces, what would you ask the pros? Let me know in the chat if you're watching live, or in the comments if you're watching on replay. You can also put it on the Facebook group, Bowling with the Fef, and I'll take a look and hopefully get to lob some of the questions, both my own and yours, at some of the best in the world coming up these next few days. Now, they do not allow live streaming there. So unfortunately, we won't be live at Bolero. Flow Bowling is the exclusive live stream provider for that event. But these will be recorded videos that we will put up on the channel just as soon as humanly possible. And I can't wait to share some great stories from really the biggest event in the bowling world that's coming up this Friday through Sunday, World Championship weekend at the World Series of Bowling. Well, our program tonight and every week is brought to you by Chip Magnet Salsa. Chip Magnet Salsa is a local company, at least for me around here. They're in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, which is really right down the street from me. Quality salsas, relishes, and other food products distributed all over the United States and even in Canada. 38 different states they distribute to. If you're in the Seattle area, you can find it at natural grocers, at metro markets, and many fine independent stores. If it's not in your store, feel free to ask for it by name or order today by going to that website, that address at the bottom of your screen, chipmagnetsalsa.com. Be a part of the salsa takeover. Chip Magnet, raise your snack standards. Let's get right on to our guest this week. And as I said, he has a website that is being seen all over the country in bowling circles and beyond. His name is Jeff Demorest, and he is coming to us from Ferndale, Washington. He is the creator of TournamentBowl.com. Jeff, is this what it's like when you're stuck in the principal's office, that you get this view of you right here.
A little bit like this, only a little more like this.
Oh, with the finger wag, and that's great. I'm not saying that I was ever in that position as a student.
Clearly not.
Right. But welcome to Bowling with the Fef. We've kind of been chatting back and forth online, and it's amazing to me to see all the tournaments in all the different states that are utilizing tournamentbowl.com. What is tournamentbowl.com for people who aren't familiar?
Yeah, thanks. That's the right question to start with for sure. Basically, it's a tournament program. So there's a few of them out there. Of course, everybody's familiar with CDE and TBRAC and WinLabs is kind of the USBC product. It's basically that. So it can manage your tournaments from entries and standings and the scorekeeping. It also does your side action. It can do your brackets and pots and things like that. And what really makes it unique is that it's all online. You don't download anything. You don't install anything. Nothing lives on your computer. It's all hosted because it's a website. You do all your work on the website, and then the results are available in real time. So you press enter to put that score in, and then that bowler presses refresh, and their brackets are updated. It's super lightning fast, and bowlers really seem to like it.
Yeah, so I can find out how much bracket money I'm out like right after game one instead of like halfway through the second game, right?
That's exactly right. That's how it goes down too.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me get through some of the comments over here. Richard Woznicki, is that someone you know? He wants me to get my act together.
Yeah, turns out that was my act. I'll fall on that one.
This isn't the latest we've ever been on. I mean, come on. But Rocky is happy to see us. Rocky Harrison from the Milwaukee area.
Great.
He says he uses the site for their combat league. So there's another example in the Milwaukee area there. Most likely a league situation. Well, it's the combat league. It's not a tournament.
And so really that's been a newer development. It's tournament software. It turns out that the side action is really, really slick. People really like it. And so in the side action going on in leagues, so people naturally started to ask the question, can I use this side action for my league? And you can. It takes a little bit of duct tape and Band-Aids to make it work together because Tournament Bowl wants to see a tournament. But you just set up week 12 as a tournament and away you go. And you just put everybody's name in as if they're bowling a sweeper. And then all your side action works really well. So I've been using it in my league, running brackets for, 6-7 years or something like that. And just kind of keeps me fresh on it. And I think right now there's 100 league records in Tournament Bowl that are using side action, Tournament Bowl for their side action.
Okay. He says it's a virtual league. Over the U.S. and Canada. So maybe that's something you're even familiar with. Combat League?
Is that the one that's out of Quebec, right? With Charles? I think that's the one, Rocky, that basically whatever league you're bowling in, you get into this side action and it's micro like dollar brackets or something like that. But you send in your scores, a picture of your recap, and then you're in your brackets for the week basically with your league scores. Sure. And they're all over the place. And this guy from Quebec's worked really, really hard, and he's been just tireless on it. So I've been working with him to just kind of help him with it. And it's been real successful. He's running tons and tons of brackets.
There it is.
Good guy too.
Correct. Charles runs it. So good to make the connection there.
Does a great job.
I'm glad to see we've got a couple questions for the pros. We're going to try and get those lobbed over their way on the days ahead. Derek would ask how they're feeling about the event, and Barbara would want to know what guru they use for mental processes. So we'll definitely try and get to those. Derek also says, nice hair, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I might guess that I'd say the same if I saw a picture of Derek, but he's not offering a picture, so we'll just have to assume that his is also fantastic.
Yeah. Let me ask you, as long as we've kind of got a couple questions for the pros out there. If you were in my shoes and got to interview pros, and I understand I haven't put out specific names yet because I'm really not sure, who I'm going to come across and who will end up showing up to where I'm set up to interview. But do you have any pressing questions that you want to know out of the PBA contingent?
I don't know. I guess the the lifestyle intrigues me of what's it like to be on the road that much. And you might picture that they're movie stars and rock stars and just all sorts of glamour and everything, but then I wonder maybe it's more like double A baseball and they're on buses all the time. And I wonder what that life is like. I worked for a guy that he was a touring pro for a number of years, and he bought a bowling center near me. And so when I was in college, I worked for him, and it was interesting to hear his stories, but I bet you they're not all the same.
Right.
He was kind of in his early 20s when he was doing it. So it was a different kind of lifestyle. He wasn't married yet, stuff like that. I bet if you had family and, do they come with you or are they just checking in? I mean, how's that go? I'll bet it's an interesting life.
Yeah.
I'll bet it's more of a grind than people might guess.
Yeah, especially for those guys who have to travel overseas for months at a time and then go home. But yeah, we'll certainly get into that in the days ahead. Jeff, let's talk about your bowling story. How did you get started initially in the sport of bowling? Where, when, all that good stuff?
Yeah, I was born into a bowling family, so I came on it pretty naturally. I was, pushing the ball down the lanes before I was big enough to pick it up off the ground. So I never didn't bowl. I was always bowling, youth leagues and stuff like that. And then at high school really is where I got competitive about it. I was in a pretty good travel league that went house to house, and we got regular coaching and, a team, and we're all trying to make varsity and all that. So I credit that period of time is where I got, kind of competitive with my bowling. And yeah, and I've really just been at it ever since. I worked in bowling centers through college, so I always had access to a lot of free bowling, and so I could, stay after the shift and knock out 10 games. Or, of course, you're bowling on almost stripped lanes, and not the best of circumstances, but you get a lot of repetition and access to ball work. You can fiddle with a thumb hole and all of that. So got kind of jazzed about it.
Sure. Were you in that Northwest Washington area? Is that like where you're from, or were you from somewhere else?
Yep. Yeah. Raised in Ferndale, and it's like 10 minutes from Canada and 10 minutes from the ocean. I'm nestled way up here in the corner.
Tell us about the bowling scene there, either that you experienced as a junior or maybe, going up through the ranks into adult competition. What's it like? I mean, I feel like I'm in kind of a small city here in Western Wisconsin, and I feel like, the big cities kind of have their thing and they don't really think about the small towns as much. But I've lived in a couple of them, and there's a pretty robust bowling community here.
Yeah, it's a pretty tight group, and I would say that it's a little bit closed off because geographically we're kind of far away from Seattle still. It's a 2-3 hour drive, and I'll be honest, we bowl on wood lanes, and so if you're in Ferndale and you really just bowl your leagues in Ferndale, when you go someplace else, it's radically different. Your game has morphed to that house, and so it's a little tricky sometimes for us to go someplace else. We have to be pretty deliberate to go and practice on some synthetic lanes and longer oil and things like that. So that can be interesting, but we've got some pretty fun tournaments. We've got a lot of Swiss tournaments in this area in the Northwest. Those are kind of the king, where you're bowling match play and all of that. And especially down the I-5 corridor, basically through Oregon, there's a lot of really big tours and big tournaments.
Yeah, for sure. So you said you kind of came up through the ranks in juniors. You competed in high school. Did you ever have ambitions to compete at the college level?
No, it wasn't really something on my sights. I'm not sure I got good enough to do that. And it just wasn't something that was on my radar. My parents were bowling in scratch leagues, and I always felt like that was what I was excited to do. So as soon as I was done with youth bowling, I kind of hopped into the men's leagues, and yeah.
Was that an easy transition for you?
Yeah, because really we went from bowling in a travel league, so we're bowling in little tiny houses all over the Puget Sound area, different every week, and then all of a sudden just one house, and they're just going to lay out the same shot every week. I can just figure out that it's just going to be like that. And so I got a nice little 25 pin boost coming out of high school. That was pretty nice for that first year in scratch leagues.
Yeah. So tell me about maybe a moment or event in bowling. Maybe that's something you competed in that was your most memorable. Was it a high game, a high series, maybe a high finish in a tournament?
Well, that's a good question. I hadn't really thought about that. worked a long time to finally get to an 800, and it was less fanfare than I envisioned. It was just kind of at the end of a handicap league, and most everybody had gone home, and I think I just got an 800. It kind of took me a while to kind of settle in, but so that was kind of cool. I don't know if I've got like a moment that was exciting. We won a league championship one time, and that was pretty exciting to do that. I'm not sure I could put my finger on one that's stood out.
Yeah, and that's great. That means they're all great, right?
Yeah, there you go. I do enjoy the game.
Yeah. Tell me about your home house. You said you guys bowl on wood lanes out there. How big, give me a lay of the land.
Yeah.
What's it called? What's it like? All that.
Yeah. Mount Baker Lanes is kind of my home center, and that's in Ferndale, Washington. And there's not a more northwest bowling center in the United States. I guess if you go to Alaska, maybe, but, and it's 20 lanes, cute little house. It's had the same ownership basically since I was a child. Well, that's not true. I worked for Dwayne, and then Dwayne passed it to Jim, and now it's Jim Stack, and he's the guy who was my coach, and he was my boss when I was working there, and we still bowl scratch league together, and now my daughter works there, and my whole family just feels super at home and always has in that center. It's really a place where we land and feel comfortable. It's probably more than a bowling center to us. It really is kind of a part of our family, and we feel pretty attached to it.
Yeah.
There's a couple of other really nice centers in Whatcom County. 20th Century Lanes has a scratch league. It's 16 lanes, old center. It's got bricks all over the place. Cute little center, super fun. Park Bowl is the larger of the three centers in our county. It's also in Bellingham. There's 24 lanes, 28. Another beautiful center.
Okay.
Yeah.
We in Wisconsin, we always hear, at least, and I say always, I just got back from the state tournament. So at the state tournament, you hear, oh, this is the Wisconsin State USBC tournament. This is one of the biggest USBC state tournaments in the country. Do you have a state tournament there, and how big or prestigious is it?
Yeah, we've got it. Definitely, the state association does a real nice job putting on a state tournament, and it'll span a month and a half. So, I mean, it really goes on for some time. So lots of people can bowl it multiple times. I'd say they do a real nice job, and they rotate it around geographically around the state, every year. Usually run women's and the opens at the same time, so that you can travel together with your family and maybe get both of them in while you're in town. Yeah. Usually over the weekend. I'd say they're really well attended.
That's not bad. How about, bowling tournaments these days? Do you go to state regularly? Do you shoot other events in your area?
Yeah, we'll go to state most years. Not every year. Sometimes it's, if it's a 7-hour drive and it doesn't work with the schedule or something like that. But most of the time we try to get out and bowl it. And there's some local Swiss tournaments that have been bowling. I'd say I probably bowl a tournament every maybe 1 or 2 a month, something like that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, if there's something close by that's scratch, definitely try to get into that and support that. Our handicap events tend to be pretty competitive. It's nice to see the level of competition at handicap events.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You said your daughter works at the center. Do your kids bowl? Are they avid bowlers?
Yeah, they're both super good. I'm real proud of them, and they've had times in their lives where they're bowling a lot, and then they'll kind of step away from it a little bit, because life takes us different directions, and then kind of come back and they realize, oh, it's all still there, and we still can roll it pretty nice. So my daughter's been bowling pretty competitively, and she's been on some real top teams, and I think she won a tournament, or she gets second a month ago. Anyway, she's doing super well. Of course, she's getting lots of practice now because she's working in the center. My son's an athlete. He's played a lot of sports, and so he hasn't been bowling as much. And I've kind of encouraged him, like, hey, bowling's going to be there for you your whole life. Play football while you can play football. You're not going to do that when you're 40. I promise you that, unless you're Tom Brady, and he's not Tom Brady. So he's exploring all sorts of things, but he's athletic. He'll pick up a ball and 175 just right out of the bag. Ball that doesn't fit, and house shoes, and he's going to be just fine.
That's awesome.
Yep.
All right. So we got to get into the heart of the matter here. Tournamentbowl.com. Tell me the story of how this all came to be, how you came up with the idea for tournamentbowl.com, and how you managed to put it together.
Sure. A couple of things worked out timing wise, worked out really well. One was, well, I see me, I'm sitting here in a school, right? I'm an educator. I've always been an educator. I'm not a classically trained programmer, although most aren't. You can't pick up what you need to know as you need to know it. But I was fortunate enough at my prior school that I don't know if you remember when you used to look up your kids' grades online, and you could see go online and see what their grades were in all of their classes. Well, that was brand new when I was a teacher at my last school, and this guy had this system that he'd come up with that was better than the one that everybody was using, essentially. And so he came to our school and he said, "I'll you buy this thing is a financial package, and I will teach somebody at your school how to tinker with it. And so whatever adjustments you need, that will be the person that will do that." Well, and that was me. It just kind of fell into my lap to do that. I wasn't looking for it. And he was a band director, so he wasn't classically trained. He just picked it up. Turns out you can do that, right? I took to it like fish to water. Like I just got it. It just made sense to me, and I loved it. And I just found myself always looking for chances to get to the keyboard and work on that a little more. And within a few years, I'd probably doubled the capabilities of it, just putting in all these different modules and stuff. Just really loved it. Well, that thing had a sunset on it for a variety of reasons, and I ended up moving to another job, and here I am here. So that kind of faded away, and I had this empty place in my heart, I guess would be the best way to say it. And we went to the state tournament, which the Washington State tournament was a long way away this year in Idaho. So that's another story why the Washington State tournament would be in Idaho. Yeah. I don't have an answer, but it was. So we drove to Idaho for the state tournament. We did quite well. In fact, we were sitting in second place. So like everybody would I wonder if those scores are going to hold up. Yep. So all the way back for 6, 7 hours in the car, okay, how am I going to figure out if those scores are going to hold up? Because I got to know. I'm excited. There's a whole week to go, and maybe a bunch of teams are going to come in. And so I'm looking online and trying to figure out, where would I find these? Where would I find? No, where do people put their scores? How are you supposed to know? Right? Well, yeah. I thought a little more about my observations and what I knew about bowling. Well, they were pinned up someplace in the bowling centers where they were with a thumbtack on a bulletin board. And I'm not going to drive 6 more hours to see if my scores held up, right? So I started thinking, well, doggone it. Why would that be? And keep in mind, there's this empty place in my head. Like I could do that. Like I could make that thing. What would it take? And I started just kind of roughing it out in my head and thinking about what the tables would look like and how would you structure that and what could you do? And around that same time, my mom, who's been a super accomplished bowler, she had turned in her application to the entry form to the Queens. And turns out the one that she wanted, the squad was not available, but she didn't find out until like weeks later because it had to go through the mail and somebody had to look at it and then go back through the mail and all that. And so she had to use this squad over here. Well, there were several others that would have been better, but by the time it got to her several weeks later, so the entry process was costly to her. And I thought, well, seems like we enter things online now, right? How are people doing this? Turns out nobody's doing online entries. And so that really got my mind thinking. And so I really spent the next, 6 months or so just on paper, just trying to kind of wrap my head around, is this something that I could do? And I decided I thought I could. So that was like 2012, something like that, 2013, right around that time frame. So that's really when I started in earnest, trying to just make this thing. And it's been organically just growing ever since. I just keep working on it and add more stuff. People have ideas and fine tuning, and that's kind of the story of how it started.
Mrs. Pfaff tells me that I love to complain about things, and it's true. I do. I think it's human nature that when we feel something's not right or something should be a certain way, we complain about it. But I usually leave it at that, and that's what frustrates her. You actually got the gumption up to get going and do this, and that's kind of a unique thing, right? I mean, a lot of people would just say, "Oh, it should be that way," or maybe get on social media and, it should be faster than this, and leave it at that. So tell me about that mindset and that ambition to actually get this thing going.
Yeah. I guess it's not unlike facing any challenge. And a guy might look at a mountain and think, I wonder if I get to the top of that. Well, why would I do that? Because I just want to see if I can do that, right? I want to see if I can get to the top of that mountain. When I'm done with that mountain, I want to do another one. And so I guess I just saw it as a task that it seemed intriguing. It seemed like something that people could use. I'd learned that about myself in the prior programming project at the school, that when I would kind of watch people do their work, and I would think, oh, so if that was there, and if you could, like, if you had a list of that, that would be helpful. And then I could show it to them. And when they would go, oh, so that, oh, that's so much easier. And I could see the kind of the excitement on their face and think that, wow, I just helped them save a bunch of time and their job is easier now. And the product is like, this is better because of something I was able to do. That's gratifying. I've often compared it to like preparing a meal, when grandma would prepare out the big Christmas meal or whatever, and just kind of the look of satisfaction on her face when everybody sits down and enjoys that meal, that like there's some satisfaction there. Seems like it kind of feels like that to me.
Yeah. If you're going to climb that mountain, do it in Wisconsin. Don't do it out by you guys. It's easier.
We got some nice mountains.
I bet. Yeah. So, but the other thing is, I talk to a lot of pro shop operators on this show, and they'll say, okay, I learned how to drill bowling balls, but then there was the first bowling ball that I drilled for a customer. And there's a difference between putting this out there to maybe someone or someone local, and having a random person say, hey, I saw tournamentbowl.com and I want to run my tournament on it. Was there some kind of a milestone moment where you had, maybe for the first time, someone you didn't know or wasn't in your bowling community reach out and say, hey, I want to run my tournament on your website?
Yeah. There was a couple of markers like that. And I think fondly about those milestones, because that, you're right, that is turning the page. And I cut my teeth with our local association, and people like Joan Rayborn she was the association manager for Whatcom County, and she agreed to let me look over her shoulder, and I'd run mine while she's running hers, and then we'd compare, and usually just one of us had typos or whatever, but get all those worked out. But yeah, there was a guy in North Carolina, and then he went to Michigan, I think, or maybe it was the other way around. Perry Porter was his name, and he reached out, or we found each other, and he used it for a couple of his tournaments. I remember thinking, wow, there's a guy that super cool guy, but I've never met him. We didn't even talk on the phone, just a couple of emails or Facebook chats and stuff like that. There was another tour in Colorado that he was just so patient, and I was still working out the bugs. There's always going to be bugs. Sure. And he was patient, and he could kind of see the vision of what this was going to be and how this could help his tour. And he just stuck with it, and he was real encouraging and everything. So there was a few times that were like that, where I thought, wow, I got this thing that somebody's using, and it's not a favor to me. Like, they're actually using this because it's something that's going to help them. And I guess I never really thought of them as strangers because of the way this grew. I was reaching out a lot in those early years. I jumped into all the bowling Facebook groups and any place where I could find a tournament that's going on. And I'm just cold messaging and posting and stuff like, hey, here's an idea. You want to try this? And knowing that that's just a sales job. I mean, I'm literally spam at that point. So it was a little bit of a hit. I had to get over the ego thing that, like, oh, this person just told me not to, to leave them alone. Like, ouch, that really hurt. But also knowing that you can't, that's how you get the word out. And so I just had to keep going. And some of those people answered the call, and then we have a conversation, and they'd ask me, why are you doing this? Well, I'm doing this because I think, all these reasons and everything. And so these people became my friends, and we worked together. I wanted their tournament to be successful because I wanted my product to look good. So I wanted their tournament to go well. So they wanted my product to work well. So their tournament, like, we were on the same page. Yeah. And so they became my partners, really. And sometimes we talk about things about the tournament that had nothing to do with Tournament Bowl. We just had those kinds of relationships. So for a number of years, really, I could tell you every tournament it was on Tournament Bowl, I could name the director. I knew, oh yeah, that's that guy, and that's over here, and they do this kind of format or whatever. And obviously I can't do that anymore. And right now it is strangers that I could dig through my email and find out where I gave them a password, but really it is, just people kind of doing their thing.
Yeah, but that's awesome to see it grow like that. What, as you go through the years, you said 2013, how long did it take before you were beyond that point where you knew everybody kind of in in the club using
Yeah.
the website.
Yeah, I went back and looked at some numbers because I thought maybe you'd ask, and I thought, well, I should know how many. In 2017, there was 164 tournaments. So I lost track somewhere in there. It was right around that area where I felt like, wow, look at these. I got these tournaments, and I don't know them anymore. They're just there, which is the way it's going to work. Amazon doesn't know everybody that's on their website either.
Right.
Eventually it's going to get to that point. How's that for delusions of grandeur? But in 2020, so that was when we shut down, that was 600 and some odd tournaments. And then last year was 1,200. So, I mean, clearly it's over the top now. So yeah, I would say it's probably around 2015, 16. That's where it went from these are people I've talked to and kind of walked them all the way to it, to these are people I gave a login to, and hopefully they're able to take care of it on their own. But I still do all the logins manually. Nobody gets a login without they email me or they message me, and then I'm pretty efficient at getting that password out to them and getting them started. And so, and I kind of think I'll hold on to that as long as I possibly can keep up, because I like the personal connection. That the very first connection that we have is them saying, here's what I'm doing, and I'd like to work together or something like that. So that if anything gets wonky or whatever, I can always go back to that original conversation of why are we doing this together?
Yeah. So it almost sounds like you become somewhat of an IT help desk somewhere along the line. If there is, a question or God forbid a problem, I mean, does this take a lot of your time to not only give them that personal touch at the beginning, but also if a question comes up?
It can, because like I said, I am vested in the success of tournaments that use Tournament Bowl, so it is symbiotic, and I want their tournament to go well. And we've all been at tournaments where the wheels come off for one reason or another. The power goes out, the roof falls in, or the scores get lost, or there's just things that happen, and boy, that's a stressful time.
Yep.
I really feel that on behalf of tournament directors, whatever the cause is. And so I try to be on call, and weekends I'm just sort of aware that sometimes you get a call, and I try to move heaven and earth to help somebody. It's pretty rare. Most of the time things happen most of the time people are able to reason things through. I would say maybe even a third of the time when I get an SOS call that, oh my God, it's all, sky's falling and hair's on fire and you got to call me right away. Oh, geez. And I'll notice the email within 10 minutes, I'm calling them. Oh, no, we got it. We just, we didn't hit save or whatever. It'll just be some little thing. So, okay, glad I didn't drive the boat over to the shore or whatever it is. Who knows what I had to do. For the most part, directors are super gracious too. I mean, they know that this is, this is a buddy helping a buddy, really. This is not a $5,000 contract. This is something that I made for them to use for free, and I want to help them the best I can. And they're super gracious when they come for help. I would say the SOS calls are getting fewer and fewer too, which is nice.
Yeah, that must be. You mentioned for free. This is something that you don't charge for and haven't this whole time. Tell me about that. Why do it for free when it's labor, it's electricity, it's internet, whatever it is, it's something. There are resources being poured into this. Why do you not demand resources in return?
Well, honest to goodness, it's because it's fun. I'm just enjoying the heck out of this, and I really, really appreciate the relationship that I have with directors. And I think if I was charging them $2 a year, then I would still feel like when they call, they did pay me. And they'd be feeling like I pay this guy. I think it would change the relationship with the directors in a fundamental way. So then I think, and that doesn't, but business relationships are like that. It's not like that can't be done. So then I think, well, how much money would it take for me to stop enjoying the relationship that I have with these directors to sort of buy that relationship off. So now instead of feeling like we're in a symbiotic relationship where this is it's really helping a friend in exchange for money, how much money would that be worth? And then I think that's worth a lot. It really is. So how much would I need to charge in order to feel right about that? More than I would feel right charging. And then now all of a sudden I don't have 1,500 tournaments, and then now, like, why would I do that? So I'm kind of committed to not doing that, really. I guess I'm open to the idea of having like a free level and a pay level maybe, or something like that someday. Of course, then I got to program all that. So that's more work, and that's not very inspirational. I'm going to program stuff that only some people get to use. I'm going to cook a meal, but only some people get to eat that part. That doesn't feel very, it's not why I got into it. So, I got other things in the back of my mind maybe. And I've always felt like if Tournament Bowl takes off, like I feel like it should, like it ought to, that there will be a way for me to be worth my while. There's ways to cash in on things that are valuable to people, that people enjoy, apart from just saying you have to pay to enjoy this.
Yeah. Tournaments across the country come in all different styles, all different flavors, all different skill levels. I reached out to a guy who is about as far away from you as you can get in the continental United States. His name is Corey Hausman. He's of the Florida Scratch Bowlers Tour. He said that they've used your website for almost 3 years now. He said they started using it right away. It's able to handle everything they need for their events. Once in a blue moon, he gets lost, but you're always there to help. The Florida Scratch Bowlers Tour, for those who aren't familiar, has names in it like Tom Hankey Jr., who was on this program, Amleto Monicelli. These are big-time bowlers. When you hear that your website is basically the nerve center of a tournament with that caliber of player in it, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. It's gratifying. The first time I saw Walter Ray's name on a tournament in Ormond, I think it was, and this wasn't the Florida Scratch Tour, it was another event. I took a screenshot and posted all of my friends and all this. I was pretty darn starstruck. I think Pete Weber was in an event. That was pretty cool. In fact, I reached out to Walter Ray. He was real cool. He talked to me a little bit just about what he liked the program and stuff like that. And we've chatted back and forth about a couple of things. So yeah, that's been pretty cool to see that it's reached that far.
Yeah. How about a goal for all this? I mean, you talked about, reaching its potential or being as big as it ought to be. What's the goal in your mind for the website?
Yeah, that's a good question too. My initial goal when I first really started going is I wanted it to be, I want Tournament Bowl to be sort of a recognized player in tournament management around the country. I want it to be something that's sort of seen as a viable option that's known, not well enough to where if you don't know about it, you know somebody who could tell you about it, kind of a thing. Sure. It seems like we're approaching that. It's getting more and more when I do like a cold call or some kind of reach out or something like that. People say, "Oh yeah, I've seen that." Mm-hmm. I bowled in a tournament that had that. In most regions, it's around enough to where people are aware. So that was a goal of mine. I guess another goal was to get out of the cold call business, to get over that threshold where I don't have to go knocking on doors. If people are coming to me, and I kind of feel like I've made that. Sometimes a tournament will catch my eye, and I'll think, "Oh, I would love to support that group or something like that," and I'll reach out. But I'm getting requests daily for logins without doing any of that. So I think it's kind of supporting itself now. Long term, I guess I don't want to be in the what's the right way to say it? I want to get it more and more self-sufficient in terms of getting new directors started. I like the personal touch of having the interaction with somebody as they get going, but I've been building a video library. At first, anything needs help. You got to figure out how to use it. Well, how are you going to figure out how to use this unless somebody shows you, right? So I walk people through and all that. Well, once I got 10, 20, 50 directors, you can't do that anymore. So I've got a little library now of help videos, and I'd like to continue to build that into more of a support system to where if you're a new director, you can just sort of get the help as you need it, where you need it, in a way that just it helps itself. So I think I might have 15, 20 videos or something like that right now, but they're not organized in a way that you have to go to the library and find the video that you want. I would like it to be more like I'm on this page doing this thing. I click that button because that was the only thing that made sense to, get to brackets or whatever. Oh, well, here's a video that shows me how to do the thing I want to do. Yeah. I want to get it more like that.
Sure.
Those videos are time consuming for me I have to tell you, but videos are time consuming to make. I set up a little camera and have it go. No, you want, fancy music and graphics and stuff like that. So if only I knew somebody that could help me with that, Pfeff. What do you know?
Oh, I'll have to think about that and get back to you.
These could be the Pfeff and Jeff videos. That'd be awesome. I love it.
Man, that's marketing genius right there.
Yeah, that just came to me.
You got to tell me who these people are. Who are those? The man and woman right next to you there.
You bet. That's my daughter. I'm in the middle there. My dad's on my right. My daughter's on my left. And that's the Red Hearts tournament in Ferndale. In fact, that's my home center right there.
Oh,
and it's just this great tournament that's not the Red Hearts. That's the Candy Cane. Sorry, the Candy Cane tournament.
Okay.
Anyway, and that's something that we've worked together on as a family for the last several years. And all I have to do is shoot up a flare, and these two are right there with me. My wife as well. Anytime there's something going on, I say, hey, you want to help me with some scores? You bet. We put the shirts on, and we set up our table and everything. And, we have a lot of fun.
Wow.
We've done a lot of tournaments together.
I was going to say, Mrs. Pfeff is not into bowling, and that's fine. But, to have that family connection in something, let's face it, that takes a lot of time and could go the other way, what is that like to incorporate, both dad and wife and daughter and all those folks into it?
It's really wonderful. And so that's the part of it where Tournament Bowl doesn't take me away from things that I love. That's where we get to do it together. And I love the enthusiasm that those guys hit it with too. It's just, this will be something fun to do together. And you go bowling in a tournament and you might do great and that's fun. And you might suck it up and that's okay if you're lucky, right? Mm-hmm. It might be like long ride home and all of that. We never have a long ride home. We're just talking about how this went. Oh, everybody's so happy. You see them all at the scores there and so everybody on their phones and everything. And, it's always a success. Yeah. So it's been super fun to get to do together.
Sure. So, this is rolling along. Years go by. All of a sudden we hit the pandemic and centers start closing in your area and my area all over the place. But, people want to bowl, right? They can't go to their bowling center. They still want to bowl. You come up with this event called the Quarantine Open. That to me sounds like, oh my gosh, I can't bowl, but wait, here's tournamentbowl.com to the rescue. Is that kind of how you see it?
Yeah, that was so much fun, Pfeff. I'll tell you that was, and it really wasn't a Tournament Bowl thing other than that was the network that helped me to connect with these junior directors all over the country. And so I kind of reached out to those guys. Hey, I had this idea. What do you think about a Wii bowling tournament? What if we just let the kids bowl on our Wiis and they just send us the score? Like we could pull that off, right? Oh my God, my kids would love that. They're all crying because we're missing this. And that shut us down right as Pepsi is heating up, all these tours and everything. Yeah, and March. Kids of all ages are just really hating it. So yeah, it was fantastic. We had people hopping in from all over the country, and we had one from Malaysia. We had one from Hong Kong. We had a couple from England, and they just came from all over the place. Sending in pictures of their scores, and the kids, it was great. The kids had their they had their bowling shirts on and everything. They got all into their digs and then they're there in their living room. They had this all ready to go to bowl this tournament on the Wii tournament.
You mean somebody would hang out in their own home in a bowling jersey?
Weird.
Glad I'm not the only one.
No, not the only one.
Yeah. So, what kind of feedback did you get? I mean, you had the mass participation, the people from even out of the country, but did they say afterwards, hey, great thing? And is that something that can carry on, post pandemic, or is that a one-time thing?
I think it might have been a one-off just because it was a substitute for something that we love much more. The feedback was over the top. I mean, people were so excited about it. They talked about how their kids were so down and disappointed in that first Saturday that came and went with no bowling, and then just oh, it was just such a drag. And then, oh, well, here's this thing that we can do. Some people went out and actually bought Wii's so that they could participate in this. They didn't have one. It was kind of old technology even at the time. Um, but the feedback was really, really positive. And, you know, it came with some lessons too, because we were just shutting down. So what do you do?
Yeah.
What I'm a kid. What am I going to do? I can't do what I used to do, and I'm all by myself. So the message was really, you can do things. There are things that you can do. You just have to be creative, and you can connect with people, and you can find fun things to do, and you can reach out, and you can be a part of a community. Nobody was Zooming yet. I mean, this was like middle of March, or the end of March, or something like that. So it was neat to get to see kids encouraged, to see kids connecting. And to hear the stories, and it got shirts, and a bunch of kids bought shirts and everything with the quarantine open on it. And yeah, it was positive, and I think it was a one-timer. I don't think there'd be a reason to have a video game tournament on a time when you could have a regular tournament, right? I just don't think it's not a great substitution. What it was something fun to do that made a kid feel like they could go bowling.
Sure. Small bowling community there. I would assume when you are in league or at a tournament, you are the tournamentbowl.com guy. When you are walking through the halls of your school there, do the kids know you as the tournamentbowl.com guy?
I'm the assistant principal. I'm known as a lot of things, but not tournamentbowl.com guy. Yeah, no. My colleagues kind of know about it, but it's it's kind of a separate part of my world. Yeah.
Okay. How about the future? Where do you go from here? Not only with tournamentbowl.com, but also, you know, your bowling career as, you know, as sporadic as these tournaments might be, or, you know, just as a league player.
Yeah. You know what? I guess I don't have aspirations to push the envelope at my age. For bowling, it's something fun that I really enjoy, and I'll travel to go to a tournament, and I'll do a nationals now and then, and the state tournament and stuff like that. You know, I guess I got it right where I want it in terms of my bowling career. In terms of tournament bowl, I guess I'm still continuing to tinker under the hood to make a couple of things, you know, a little better, a little faster. Add some functionality. There's a couple more features that I'd like to add, and little fine-tune kind of things. I would love to get, well, here we go. Now this is almost advertising. I would love to get a partner. I would love to get somebody who could help develop an app. Right now, everything is just web-based, and it's all you can do it on your phone, but you're accessing a web page on your phone. Sure. And you know what I really like is when you're playing fantasy football and you open up your Yahoo app or whatever, and as soon as you launch it, it knows your guys, and you can do things that are for you because it knows you, and it's really designed for the phone. You can customize the interactions and stuff like that. I think that would be an app that bowlers would appreciate, and you know, a tournament bowl app, so that when you launch the app, it just knows that you're in brackets tonight because it's Tuesday night, and this is when you do your brackets, and I can see that you're already in. So you don't have to like navigate to your name. It would just see you. Maybe keep track of your stats for you, stuff like that.
Yeah. And what I'm thinking when you say that is, you'd probably also have the benefit of a push notification that would tell you, back to that tournament situation that you were in, is my score going to hold up? Maybe there's a new leader, and you get it without even having to look.
Yep, exactly. That kind of thing. I can see that could be pretty fun. Or you're in brackets, and the guy that you're against is right next to you. So you could go see how's he doing, you know, just to notify all sorts of things. It seems like the sky could be the limit on things that you could do with an app, and it would be fun to make. And I guess I'm probably don't have the capacity right now to take that on as another project. So I would love to kind of grow the team. Right now you're looking at the team. I would love to grow the team to start working on that.
Yeah. Well, hey, there's no problem being a one-person team. I kind of do that myself.
Yeah.
We've got a few comments here. Richard says, indeed, and I can't remember where that came from. Richard, if you're still on, let me know what you agree with me with. Maybe it's the mountains in Wisconsin thing. I don't know. Barbara wants to know if you can talk about how a user can benefit from Tournament Bowl, like watching your scores from afar or tracking your own scores real time.
Well, I think she answered her own question right there. So you can tell how you're doing while you're bowling the tournament, and you can see how see if your score's holding up, and how far you are from the cut or first place or whatever. You can track your brackets, side pots, all of that stuff. You bet. And for youth tours, it's really tracking your scores like of your family. And that's where Tournament Bowl really, really catches on, is with youth tours, because grandma wants to know how you're doing. And grandma couldn't make the trip, but grandma was really dying to know. And so to be able to watch that from someplace else is super valuable.
Yeah. The one thing that I didn't bring up is the fact that if you're a tournament director or you're volunteering at a tournament that utilizes Tournament Bowl, you still do have to enter in those scores manually, but it's only one place, right?
Correct. Yeah, single entry. So who loves it is the bracketeers. If you're running brackets, once you've got that shuffle done, go get some lunch. You're done. Yeah. You don't enter any scores at all. They all just go in and they go to all your side action or alibis or crossovers or all of those things. And since it's web based, you don't have to be at the terminal, where, the laptop or whatever. Well, you see the picture, I'm sitting there with an iPad, but usually I do the scores on my phone. I just walk around with my phone, and, my daughter's got her phone over there and she's putting in her scores, and super fast and easy. And directors learn that they like being down where their bowlers are rather than sitting in the office someplace with their computer typing in the scores. It's a much nicer place to be.
And there's the concept of getting rid of some of those shenanigans that we all experience in brackets at one time or another, because that's just no good for anybody, right?
Yeah.
Derek wants to know, he says, you should do another video game tournament with PBA Pro Bowling single player for the people who can't travel.
Yeah, that was brought up to maybe try a different platform or something like that. Yeah, but speaking of PBA, here's what I thought: if we were going to do another one, and we ultimately didn't, but if we were, because bowling kind of opened back up again, if we were going to do another one, I was going to try to get a pro bowler or two to participate and in the tournament, and I thought that would, for kids, that would be pretty cool to see some names that they recognize on the standings, that, because there's no reason a kid can't beat Belmo on a video game, right? You may not be able to beat them on the lanes, but and you saw some of the scores if you looked on the standings. Some kid's pretty good at the Wii. So to say I beat, whoever, I thought that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a great idea. I'm assuming at this point you've seen, one or two of these shows anyway. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, then you know how we go off the sheet. We ask you to challenge somebody else in the bowling community. It doesn't have to be at a certain skill level or anything. Just someone who's passionate about the sport and has a unique story to tell. So, Jeff Demorest, who would you like to challenge to be on a future episode of Bowling with the Fev?
That's a great question, and I got an answer right away for you. Okay. Do you know Kevin Hong?
I do. I know him through, chat messages and things like that. I know his pictures, though, and they are fantastic.
Fantastic. Yeah, and what a unique project that he works on. Vintage Alleys, I think, although he just changed the name. I think it's Maple and Pine or something like that now. But basically just record pictures of all these amazing centers around the world that you would never get to see. And we get to see him because he takes these really, really nice photographs. And he's the youth director for Seattle USBC. And what you may not know, if you're not, from this area, part of the country, he is an amazing support for youth bowling in this area. He runs tournaments that would make your head spin, the amazing formats and promotion, and he's able to get sponsors. And so the scholarships that come from the tournaments that he runs are quite amazing. So I think he's got multiple stories to tell that would be great to hear. I'd tune into that one for sure.
Yeah. No, I would love to have him on. Like I said, I've had some chat conversations with him. Kevin, you heard it from Jeff. You should be on the show. Let me know. You know my Facebook, or you can email me at bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com. We can make that happen. We've already got a viewer here in Jeff. So that's, there you go. No reason not to, right? So our next live stream, and I say live stream because I've already talked enough about the World Series of Bowling, yada, yada, going there, recording some video. But our next live stream is on the 15th, and that's going to be a good one too. That is going to be with Coach K, Steve Klemkin, who, if you're familiar with Wichita State bowling history, you know of Steve. If you are familiar with the Above 180 or Storm Collegiate Spotlight podcast, you know him because he's one of the voices on that thing. He is the vice president of product development at Storm. So again, Tuesday, March 15th, 6 p.m. Central, Steve Klemkin, Coach K, coming up on Bowling with the Fef. Jeff, it has been a pleasure. And before we go, tell me, please, if there is a tournament director out there who is not familiar with tournamentbowl.com and wants to get set up for his or her next event, what do they do?
Well, if you just are ready to start, if you email me with your name and USBC number, I'll email you back with a password, and you're locked and loaded and ready to go.
Okay.
It's really that simple. I'm just handing them out. If you want to know more about it, you're free to reach out or something. Or my best advice is look at the site. It's all right there to be examined. Start clicking through some tournaments and make sure you drill in to see what it'll do. It's pretty unique. It's a lot more than just listing tournaments.
Yeah. And your email, your contact, is it jeff@tournamentbowl.com like you have listed there? Okay.
Yeah, try to keep it simple.
Fantastic. Jeff Demorest, thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate the time, and I guess keeping you in the office there maybe a little later than usual.
Maybe par for the course, but
well, regardless, best of luck in the future with the website and with your own bowling. Looking forward to seeing where this whole thing will take you.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Fef. It's been fun. I appreciate it.
You bet. Everybody, thanks for joining us. Be just and fear not. We will see you coming up soon from the World Series of Bowling. Have a great night, everyone.